Something happened to you this Monday, at this exact moment when the clock struck what it struck. You have waited years for an answer that seemed to have an address, a date, a signature. What you feel now is not coincidence. It is the conclusion of a waiting cycle that has finally reached its maturity. I came here to tell you what this means, because what you have been carrying in silence has not been dead weight, but a period of gestation for something that now needs to be revealed. Stay with me, because by the end of this message you will understand the exact signs that have been shaping your recent days. You will identify the single pattern of exhaustion you need to let go of today, and you will hear the declaration that separates those who merely wait from those who are finally ready to harvest. Lately, you have been feeling an exhaustion that sleep does not cure. It is a fatigue that seems to come from the soul, a sense that you are operating on a different frequency from the people walking beside you. You notice that conversations that once made sense now feel empty, as if you are speaking a language no one else understands. You have been waking at the same hour, feeling a call to silence, a restlessness that pushes you away from the noise of the ordinary world. These are not health issues or spiritual problems. They are symptoms of alignment. Your distance from old paths is your preparation for the new route. Your exhaustion is proof that you are no longer trying to fit in where you do not belong. Take a deep breath with me now. Let this recognition settle into the part of you that has waited longest for this confirmation. If even one of these signs touched you, if your shoulders dropped at some point while I named this solitary journey of yours, type the number 888 in the comments. Your fingers typing those numbers are your spirit saying yes to the change that has already begun. It is the smallest agreement, but it is the most real because it establishes your presence in this moment. Type 888 and come back to me. You have been feeling this way because you spent years trying to open doors that were never meant for you, applying all your strength to ropes that were already tied to nothing. Attention! You need to prepare yourself now. I have prepared material for those who doubt their own calling from God and still do not have confirmation. Are you one of the chosen? We'll give you that clarity. These are the 7 signs of the language of the calling, marks of God in the story of every chosen one, so you can reread your story and recognize the purpose sealed over you before the foundation of the world. Stop calling coincidence what is actually a calling. Stop silencing the sacred restlessness. Stop postponing the answer you feel. Your window is closing, and a chosen one who does not recognize the calling does not walk in purpose. More than 10,000 people have already read the 7 signs and received the conviction they had been seeking for years. They were just like you. They felt something no one understood. They lived in silent doubt, and they discovered it was real. And it had a name. The offer is open only this month. Access the link in the pinned comment now before doubt steals another year from your calling, tied to nothing. You mistook loyalty for depletion, believing that if you sacrificed enough, the result would come as a reward for your effort. But the truth is, you were watering soil that was not yours. Imagine now what exists beneath that surface. You are like a garden with very deep roots, whose seeds were planted long ago, but which had to cross dense layers of earth to find the light. The silence you have lived through was not a punishment. It was the necessary protection so that your essence would not be burned before its time. While the world sought quick fruits in shallow ground, you were led downward to where the root strengthens in the dark, ensuring that when the tree grows, it will not fall with the first wind. The pattern you operated on was one of survival, but the time for survival is over. The time for harvest is now. If the image of those deep roots that needed silence to germinate made sense to you, if you understand that your waiting was actually a strengthening, type the words, "I am ready," in the comments. Let this recognition seal where it has just landed. The act of typing those words makes your readiness a permanent mark on your personal record. Type it and come back to me. You do not need to build anything now. You only need to allow the structure that is already there, hidden, to begin rising. What you lived through was the unlearning of everything that prevented you from being who you are. Now, all that remains is the return. The solution is not in seeking new directions, but in sitting in your own truth and observing what has already been provided. Let your like be your wordless amen, not as a metric, but as a deep agreement that what was named here was named with precision. There is someone in your life who needs to hear exactly this, someone who has been striving in silence, sustaining a posture no one sees, someone whose face just came to your mind while I spoke. Send this to that person now, not as advice but as a notice that they are not alone. Before we finish, type the words "I am the chosen one" in the comments, not as a request, but as the confirmation that the agreement between heaven and your hearing is sealed. Let your fingers do what your spirit is already doing. You spent years trying to turn keys in doors that, in truth, did not even have locks. There is a silent pattern, a gear that operated in the dark of your routine, which consists of insisting on opening paths that were never designed for your journey. You mistook physical effort for loyalty to your purpose. You believed that if the door did not give way, it was because you did not push hard enough, or because you needed more preparation, more time, more merit. But the truth is that your tiredness does not come from the work itself. It comes from resistance against the natural course of things. You performed for audiences that were never paying attention and knocked on metals that never emitted a welcoming sound. This pattern of trying to force entry into places that are not your home is what drained your reserve of faith. You acted as if provision depended on your sweat, when in truth it has always depended only on your remaining in the right place. You need to look at this posture with the clarity of someone who finally realizes that you did not lose time, but that you were being redirected by a force far wiser than your immediate will. Imagine now a garden with deep roots beneath the earth. For a long time, you thought your value was in what sprouted above ground, in what others could see, measure, and praise. But the phase you went through, this long period of silence and isolation, was not a pause in your life. It was the necessary time for your roots to go down there, to seek what you could not find on the surface. While the world demanded that you bloom hastily, what was happening was a hidden strengthening. The garden needed that silence to germinate, because the roots that sustain a purpose too great to be seen immediately need darkness to take hold. You were pruned by circumstances, not to diminish you, but so that the sap would not be wasted on branches that would bear no fruit. This metaphor of the garden is the only one that explains why, despite everything you felt as loss, there is a steadiness within you that did not exist before. You are anchored in soil no one else knows, soil that was prepared, so that when the season of harvest comes, you will not be carried away by the wind. If something inside you just aligned with this image of the garden, if the revelation about your deep roots touched a point of pain that finally found rest, type the words "I am ready" in the comments. Let the recognition of this new phase seal where the truth has just landed. Type it and come back to me. The solution, therefore, was never about doing more or seeking new directions with the urgency of one who fears being forgotten. The solution is a return to your original essence, a softening of the defenses you built to survive an environment that did not recognize who you were. There is nothing to build today that you do not already possess in seed. You no longer need to explain yourself. You no longer need to justify your delay, nor ask permission to occupy the space that has always been yours by birthright. The return you seek is the unlearning of everything that convinced you that you were less than the calling you carry. Sit in your truth with the calm of one who knows that the door does not need to be broken down, because it was made to open before those who walk with the steadiness of one who is home. Your essence is not something to be achieved, it is something to be remembered. And in remembering, you discover that everything you ever needed was, all along, available in the calm of a heart that stopped fighting its own destiny. Take a deep breath now, letting this truth travel through every fiber of your being. If something in this message confirmed what your spirit already knew deep down, from the very first moment, let your like be your wordless amen. Not as a network metric, nor as an empty gesture, but as a deep agreement that what was named here was named correctly. It is a silent signal that your soul recognized its own story in the voice that now guides you. Sit with that for a moment. Let it settle into the part of you that waited longest to hear this. There is someone in your life who needs exactly this message now. Someone you know well. Someone whose face just appeared in your mind while I spoke. It is that person who has been striving harder than everyone around them and still sees the door remain closed, despite so much dedication. It is someone who walks quietly in a way that no one around can explain, carrying a weight that seems to have no name. Send this to that person, not as a casual recommendation, but as a necessary delivery. Just as this revelation reached you, by warning and by destiny, send it onward. Care is the language of those who understand the weight of the calling. Before this ends, type the words, "I am the chosen one," in the comments, not as a wish, not as a distant hope, but as an absolute confirmation of your position. The agreement that has been forming in silence between heaven and your hearing is an agreement you will live by for the rest of this season of your life. Type it slowly. You have waited years for a movement that did not depend on your strength, a change of tide that did not need your push. At this very moment, what seemed like delay reveals itself as preparation. What you lived through was not a desert of opportunities, but a period of conserving your essence so that when the door finally moved, you would be ready to cross without carrying the weights that do not belong to you. For this journey to make sense, we need to align what you feel with what is about to manifest. By the end, you will recognize the signs that have punctuated your days. Understand the pattern of exhaustion that kept you trapped in repetitive cycles, and most importantly, receive the revelation of why certain hopes were suspended while your character was forged. Stay with me, because the deepest layer of this message is what will dictate the tone of your next season. Many of you have noticed a strange synchronicity lately. Perhaps it is sudden awakenings in the early morning, an unusual silence that seems to inhabit your home, or conversations that once flowed and now sound like distant noise. These signs are not random. They are evidence that your frequency is changing. The tiredness you feel is not lack of purpose. It is the fine-tuning of one who is leaving a system of effort and entering a system of reception. It is the smallest agreement possible, but it is the most real because it establishes your intention before this revelation. Type 888 and come back to me. The truth is that you spent years trying to open doors that were locked for a simple reason. They were not made for your new stature. You wore yourself out trying to justify your presence at tables where your voice was only an echo, mistaking your loyalty for the need to always prove your worth. This pattern of pulling ropes that were no longer tied to anything is what left you exhausted. Your fight was not against circumstances. It was against the idea that you needed to stay busy to be someone. Imagine a garden with very deep roots, which spent years being cultivated in the dark. The surface seemed empty, perhaps even abandoned, and those who looked from outside saw no fruit at all. But underneath, the structure was becoming unshakable, adapting to support the weight of a growth no one could imagine. You were that garden. The silence you faced was just the earth protecting what was being designed in secret. If this image of deep roots resonates as the story of your own life, if the revelation that your isolation was, in truth, a protection, fell like a balm, type the words, "I am ready," in the comments. Let the recognition of this truth seal what has just been revealed within you. The act of typing those words makes the witness permanent in your personal record. Type it and come back to me. The solution for your restlessness is not a new to-do list or a more aggressive action plan. It is the return. It is the unlearning of haste. It is the softening of the rigidity you built to defend yourself from a world that never understood your timing. Receive, in this moment, permission to simply be. What comes next is not conquered, it is harvested. Your stewardship over what you already carry is what will attract what is missing. Not as a count of numbers, but as an absolute agreement that what was named here is the truth your spirit already recognized even before I began to speak. It is a way to seal the understanding that you no longer need to carry the world on your shoulders, because the world now begins to bow before the clarity of your purpose. You have felt, with a precision that is almost startling, that this moment in your trajectory is not an accident, but a convergence point of forces you did not even know were being mobilized. There is someone who walks beside you, someone who has the same tired yet attentive look, someone who keeps their head held high, even when the weight of the world seems to want to bend their knees. The face of this person just appeared in your mind, did it not? It is a face that carries the same mark of dedication, the same silence you maintained, the same search for a meaning that no one else seemed able to see. Send this message to that person now. It is not a casual invitation, it is a delivery. You are passing on the key that opened your own door, the confirmation that the waiting time has ended. Do this as a gesture of care, a recognition that although the journey is individual, the frequency is the same for all who are awakening. Now, breathe deeply. Let the oxygen travel through every fiber of your being, calming any trace of haste. Before we conclude this cycle, there is a final truth that needs to be engraved within you, not as a theory, but as an identity you finally assume. Type the words, "I am the chosen one," in the comments. Do not do this on impulse. Do it as one who signs their own name on a document that no longer allows a return to a state of doubt. Feel the weight of these words as your fingers form each letter. The agreement that was sealed between heaven and your hearing during these minutes is something you will carry from now on, in every decision, in every sunny day, and in every early morning watch. Something happened to you in this moment. Perhaps you still do not have words for it, but something inside you moved, and I came to tell you what it was. You carry a question that no one around you has been able to answer, a restlessness that accompanies you from dawn to rest. The title that brought you here was not an accident, it was a marker. You have waited years for this confirmation, for this clarity that now begins to spring forth like water from a source that was blocked by decades of uncertainty. By the end of this conversation, you will recognize the 4 signs that have been appearing in your routine and understand that they are not noise, but coordinates. You will comprehend the single pattern that has been blocking your harvest, that old way of giving that only drained your energy. And before we finish, there is a revelation I will speak directly about your journey, the hidden reason why this message found its way to you now. You have been feeling sudden waves of emotion without an apparent cause, a tightness in the chest mixed with inexplicable gratitude. Conversations that once seemed normal now sound empty, as if you are speaking a language others no longer understand. And there is the early morning. You have been waking at the same instant, as if an internal clock has been adjusted to a frequency the rest of the world ignores. Repeated numbers appear on your screen, on receipts, on the clock time, like reminders that your vision is expanding. The tiredness you feel is not failure, it is calibration. The distance you perceive from old cycles is just alignment happening in real time. It is the smallest agreement, but it is real. Beneath these signs, there is a pattern you repeat without realizing. You have been striving to open doors that were not made for your passage, mistaking your insistence for purpose. You operate from the belief that if there is no effort, there will be no achievement. But the truth is that you are trying to harvest fruit in a season that only serves for planting. You have been performing for an audience that was never paying attention, spending your light where there is no receptivity. The diagnosis is clear. You are exhausted because you are trying to carry the weight of the world with hands that should be open to receive. Imagine a garden of deep roots in soil that has gone through a long drought. The trees there did not stop growing, they only went down. They hid in the underground to strengthen their base, to reach the water table that no one sees. You are that tree. Your silence, your isolation, your apparent stagnation, all of this was the strengthening of your structure. You were not stopped. You were rooting. If the image of those roots growing in the dark fell into a place you cannot explain, if something inside you just sealed with that truth, type the words, "I am ready," in the comments. Let the recognition seal where it has just landed. The act of typing those words makes your witness permanent in your own record. Type it and come back to me. The solution does not lie in more tasks, in more to-do lists, or in a new frantic search. The solution is the return to your essence. It is the unlearning of weight. It is allowing your being to flow with the same ease with which the sun rises, without effort, simply being. When you stop fighting the flow and begin to navigate the tide of your own purpose, the doors that were once locked begin to give way, not by force but by resonance. Your only task is the stewardship of your own soul, caring for what has been entrusted to you as the greatest treasure in the world. Not as a metric, but as an agreement that what was named here was named correctly. Someone who has been striving harder than everyone around them and still sees the door remain closed. Someone who walks quietly in a way that no one around can explain. Someone whose face just appeared in your mind while I spoke. Send this to that person, not as a recommendation, but as a delivery, a notice that they are not walking alone in the desert. Take a deep breath now. Let the oxygen travel through every cell of your body as you recognize the validity of this journey. The truth you have waited years to hear did not come in a thunderclap. It came in this calm, in the recognition that you no longer need to prove your worth to anyone. Not as a wish, not as a hope, but as the confirmation that the agreement that has been forming in silence between heaven and your hearing is the map you will live by for the rest of this season. Type it slowly. You are committed. You are sent. You are being led. Right now, all over the world, other people are receiving this same recognition. You are part of something that is not announced with noise, and that is exactly why it is real. Attention! You need to prepare yourself now. I have prepared material for those who doubt their own calling from God and still do not have confirmation. Are you one of the chosen? We'll give you that clarity. These are the 7 signs of the language of the calling, marks of God in the story of every chosen one, so you can reread your story and recognize the purpose sealed over you before the foundation of the world. Stop calling coincidence what is actually a calling. Stop silencing the sacred restlessness. Stop postponing the answer you feel. Your window is closing, and a chosen one who does not recognize the calling does not walk in purpose. More than 10,000 people have already read the 7 signs and received the conviction they had been seeking for years. They were just like you. They felt something no one understood. They lived in silent doubt, and they discovered it was real. And it had a name. The offer is open only this month. Access the link in the pinned comment now, before doubt steals another year from your calling.